Hey, welcome back to Well, That's Interesting, the Heroes Come in All Shapes and Sizes and Shit edition. Today is episode 224, How Gophers Saved a Part of Mount St. Helens, and 'tis no shipwreck, it's the world's largest coral colony. My friends, if you're a long-time listener of this show, then you know that sometimes, when humans intervene with the wilds of nature, even with the best of intentions, things don't always go to plan. For example, way the fuck back, in betweeny 070, we travel to the absolutely charming and incredibly small island of Satunga, sitting among the many islands of the Åland archipelago, located dead smack between Sweden and Finland. More than 30 years ago, the wee, quiet island, home to about 100 people, was chosen as the idyllic place researchers thought would be perfect for their plan to introduce a species of butterfly whose numbers were struggling at the time. The vulnerable Glanville fritillary. We all know it. But, there was only one problem. Well, actually, several problems. Shoved inside other problems, stuffed inside others. For you see, not only is the Glanville fritillary native to a completely different area, i.e. the coastal southern half of the Isle of Wight and the Channel Islands of motherfucking England, 1,500 miles away, according to atlasobscura.com, quote, researchers did not realize that their introduction of the Glanville fritillary would lead to the emergence of 3 other species, which sprang out of the butterfly, like Russian dolls, end quote. Yeah, my friends, researchers had no idea that 3 other species were along for the ride, one inside the other. What was imagined to end as an inspirational tale of survival ended up a bonkers cycle of parasitism on a tiny island, repeating itself for decades. Whoops. Now, that was an example on one hand, but on the other, we do have instances where shit actually goes smashingly well. In episode 209, researchers are using volcano bomb cannons to save lives, and these parasitic wasps are being used to save an English manor. Boy, howdy, we learned a lot. Like a thin layer of ash can save homes from falling volcanic debris. And that if you want to save an English manor from, say, 2,455 fabric-loving moths, you send in another kind of pest to disturb their sexy time and eradicate them within weeks. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, have a listen if you haven't. That was episode 209. Today, we are heading back in time to witness absolute destruction and how tiny heroes brought a region back to life. When Mount St. Helens, located in Washington state on the west coast of the United States, erupted in 1980, 540 million tons of ash fell over an area of more than 22,000 square miles. The ash was carried as far away as Minnesota and Oklahoma and drifted around the globe within 2 weeks. The immediate area was decimated. It literally looked hopeless. But one team of scientists had a eureka moment. Let's bring in Gophers. Yeah. 2 years after the eruption of Mount St. Helens, local Gophers were sent in and to a particular designated area, and they spent 24 hours there doing gopher shit. And my friends, in that little time, their behavior led to life repopulating faster than any other area around Mount St. Helens. We will get into the details of who these gophers were, what they did, and with who, because, yeah, they didn't work alone. Together, they created a tiny heaven on earth after a hellish event. Then after the break, another instance where you have a plan, but fate has something different in mind. Back in October of 2024, a team of marine scientists, ornithologists, filmmakers, and explorers from National Geographic, the government of the Solomon Islands, key members of Ocean 12, which is not the movie, we will get into it, and others of the Solomon Islands Ministry of Education and Human Resources Development, they had a plan. Traverse 3 unique sites across the Solomon Islands to better understand the country's marine ecosystem, all in hopes to advance ocean conservation. Easy peasy. One fine day, though, Manu St. Felix, a cinematographer from Nat Geo, he did something very Nat Geo. He headed to a location rumored to be a shipwreck in these very waters. And guess what? Well, as you can tell by the title of today's show, 'tis no shipwreck. The largest coral ever recorded so far has been found. We will dive alongside Manu. We will measure this beast. We will learn what this discovery means for the Solomon Islands and for life in warm waters, which, by the way, 44% of corals living in warm waters are threatened with extinction. 44 goddamn %, and that's according to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. That number sucks, but this story is a rare bright spot. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my polyp-sized business goose. To begin, I'm going to need you to fuel up the old time machine with Aquanet and to line the interior with as many shoulder pads as possible, because we're heading on back to a devastating time in a country that doesn't need help destroying itself. My friends, the year is 1980, and we've just landed within view of Mount St. Helens in Skamania County, Washington State, USA. And for my fellow geographically challenged Americans who know these words but aren't quite sure where Helen is exactly, don't worry, I've got you. And in a few minutes, you're about to never forget. Everyone, please imagine the damn United States. Thank you. Point to the very upper left-hand corner, and there is Washington. It's kind of a rectangle of sorts. Now, if you point to the very lower left corner of that shape, there she is, Mount St. Helens, who after 123 years of silence, suddenly had a lot to say. On March 20th, at 3:45 p.m. local time, a shallow magnitude 4.2 earthquake centered below the volcano's north flank signaled Helen's awakening from her nap. And what followed afterwards culminated to the equivalent of $3.4 billion in destruction in today's money, the loss of 57 human lives and millions of birds and thousands of more animals, just to name a few. Within 2 days, the Mount St. Helens area experienced 174 shocks of a magnitude 2.6 or greater, and somehow, only small earthquake-induced avalanches of snow and ice were reported from aerial views. As the days passed, volcanologists, researchers, and photographers experienced a mix of emotions, from elation for bearing witness to something so rare, to agony, as a part of them knew this luck may be running out. And it wasn't a question of if, but when. Helen didn't waste much time. When on March 27th, an eruption of steam caused by magma suddenly heating groundwater was so intense, it busted a new crater 250 feet wide, sending an ash column about 7,000 feet into the air. According to the wiki, by this date, all signs were pointing to a magnificent shitstorm, as a 16,000-foot-long eastward-trending fracture also developed across the summit area. It wasn't looking good. More earthquakes hit, followed by an additional series of steam explosions that sent ash higher than before, 10,000 to 11,000 feet above their freshly made vents. On March 29th, a second new crater and reports of an otherworldly blue flame were observed. This blue flame was encased by ash clouds rolling down the volcano and illuminated by lightning bolts that were up to 2 miles long. But don't worry, it's going to get a whole lot worse. On April 3rd, finally, Governor I shit you not Dixie Lee Ray declared a state of emergency, and on April 30th, an executive order creating a red zone around the volcano. Basically, anyone unauthorized caught in this zone faced a $500 fine, which is about $1,800 or so in today's money, or 6 months in jail. Now, if this and blue flames surrounded by fucking lightning didn't scare the bejesus and leg warmers off people at the time, the following probably did. In the last week of April, a 1.5 mile diameter section, a 1.5 mile diameter section of Mount St. Helens was, shall we say, bulging outwards by at least 270 feet. By early May, this baby bulge had grown by 5 to 6 feet per day, and by mid-May, it extended more than 400 feet. Now, I can see your reaction from here. It says, you're thinking, shit. I bet that increase is probably due to the increase in volume of magma, just pushing its way into the volcano. If you thought that, you're right. Let's get into it. On May 18th, at 8:32 in the goddamn morning, a magnitude 5.1 earthquake hit directly below the north slope by that baby bulge. It was powerful enough to shake that land loose, leading to an avalanche traveling at speeds of up to 155 miles per hour. Less than 20 seconds later, Mount St. Helens erupted with a force so powerful, I'm going to need you to sit down and hold the fuck on as I drop these number bombs on you. Are you ready? Okay. After 9 hours, the eruption ended, and the wasteland was finally revealed. This event reduced the summit by 1,300 feet, and what's known as the lateral blast occurred at near supersonic speeds. It was also loaded with volcanic debris and caused devastation as far as 19 miles away from the volcano. Yeah. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the direct blast zone, or quote, the innermost zone, averaged about 8 miles in radius, an area in which virtually everything, natural or artificial, was obliterated or carried away. For this reason, this zone has also been called the tree removal zone. End quote. No trees, everyone. They're gone. The blast, in sum, released energy equal to 24 megatons of TNT. Yeah. So, my horrified business goose, as I mentioned before, 57 people were caught in this eruption, including volcanologist David A. Johnston, who was stationed at an observation post called Coldwater 2, located 6 miles north of the mountain, and amateur radio operator Jerry Martin, who was located farther north of Johnston's position. Although at least 6 miles away, they still could not escape fast enough. Jerry's last words were recorded, and they're just downright chilling. Quote, "Gentlemen, the camper and car that's sitting over to the south of me is covered. It's gonna hit me too." End quote. After rising 80,000 feet, the volcanic ash cloud drifted east across the United States in 3 days and encircled the Earth within 2 weeks. My friends, no matter what disaster you're looking at right now, it's not as cataclysmic as the photos I'm going to share with you over at our social media stuff, so please avert your eyes and grab your phone. I know there's a lot of shit going on right now, but don't worry, this will help because it's even worse. Tap on today's post, and not only will you behold a before and after photo of Helen, you will see photographer Reed Blackburn's vehicle and a picture of the innermost zone. I have them up here myself, and no matter how many times I see it, y'all, first of all, it looks as though someone took an ice cream scoop to Mount St. Helens. It looks completely different and hollowed out after this May 18th eruption. As for the car and the innermost zone, it's like an atomic bomb went off. Everything looks monstrously hopeless. So, you'd be forgiven if, 2 years later, With the land seemingly frozen in time, microbiologists showed up on the scene looking you dead in the eyes and said, "We can fix this." And you say, "How?" And they say, "Gophers?" And your reaction is, "What the fuck?" That would be understandable. But that's what happened. Kinda. UC Riverside microbiologist Michael Allen and his team had a eureka moment in the early 80s. For you see, tiny but extremely mighty creatures called come on. You know, I practiced this. I did. I really did. I see your face. I did. Mycorrhizal fungi. Nailed it. Mycorrhizal fungi. They're found in about 90% of land plants, and they've been around for approximately 400 million years. They are essentially land plants' besties. Over those millions of years, the two formed something of a symbiotic relationship. The fungi attach like a conga line to the plant's root system, and by doing so, they increase the plant's absorption area, allowing the plant to access more water and nutrients from the soil. The fungi receives sugars in return. As reported by Jules Bernstein of University of California.edu, they also help protect plants from pathogens in the soil. And critically, by providing nutrients in barren places, they help plants establish themselves and survive. In an interview with Jules, microbiologist Michael was like, "We need to get these fungi back up and in action because," quote, "with the exception of a few weeds, there is no way most plant roots are efficient enough to get all the nutrients and water they need by themselves. The fungi transport these things to the plants, and they get carbon they need for their own growth in exchange," end quote. The team believed in their heart of hearts that the mighty, half-pound, 8-inch-long gopher, with its exceptional tunneling skills, might be able to regenerate lost plant life on the mountain by bringing what beneficial bacteria and fungi exist underneath the ash to the surface. And there was only one way to find out. We need to helicopter them in and let them loose. Let's get into it. In 1983, microbiologist Michael and Utah State University's James McMahon borrowed a chopper, some local gophers, maybe some cocaine, and focused on a fenced-off area of Mount St. Helens where the lava had turned the land into collapsing slabs of porous pumice, which is a fancy way of saying very light and porous volcanic rock. In 3 years after the eruption, only about a dozen plants, wind-dispersed spiders, and scavenging beetles could be found in the immediate area. Things were not looking good. Despite this, the team crossed their fingers and released the hounds, and by hounds I mean gophers, within this fenced area. For a mere 24 hours, the gophers gophered. When the time was up, all were rounded up, and the team collectively and figuratively held their breath for 6 years. And don't ask me how you round up gophers. I'm assuming more cocaine. So, what did they find when they went back to this location and compared it to non-gophered land? Drumroll, please. Thank you in the back. Quote, 6 years after their trip, there were over 40,000 plants thriving where the gophers had gotten to work, while the surrounding land remained, for the most part, barren. End quote from James Felton of IFLscience.com. Yeah. 40,000 plants, my friends. And guess what? It gets even better. Microbiologist Michael returned to that land 40 years later, in 2024, for a brand new study. And I'm going to need you to sit down and hold the fuck on one more time. Quote, plots with historic gopher activity harbored more diverse bacterial and fungal communities than the surrounding old-growth forests. We also found more diverse fungal communities in these long-term lupine gopher plots than in forests that were historically clear-cut prior to the 1980 eruption. For example, nearby at Bear Meadow, end quote. The team explained, summed up by their study titled Microbial Community Structure in Recovering Forests of Mount St. Helens. My toothy business goose. Just 24 hours of gophing led to 40 years of booming microbial growth. If you're impressed, you're not alone. Lead study author and University of Connecticut mycologist Mia Maltz said it best to University of California.edu in an interview, quote, "We cannot ignore the interdependence of all things in nature, especially the things we cannot see like microbes and fungi. These results underscore how much there is to learn about rescuing distressed ecosystems." End quote. Fucking gophers and microbes. I didn't expect it. I honestly didn't expect it. After the break, speaking of rescuing distressed ecosystems, coral. For the love of God, coral. Feels like every day there's a news story about another patch fading out of existence. But I've got one hell of a positive story for you next. Grab your finest bikini and stay tuned.
I know every operating
At my
system like
last
the
job,
back of my hand.
When it comes to 5 years of experience and have worked with several people from your company, I've been recognized for my passion. My team is everything.
LinkedIn delivers candidates who rise above the rest. With an up-to-date view into shared connections, skills, and interests you won't find anywhere else. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
This episode is brought to you by Abercrombie. Build your fits of the day with Abercrombie's newest denim drop. Here's where to start. Abercrombie's 90s straight jean goes with any shirt from tees to sweater polos. Super versatile. Their loose and baggy jeans are more trend forward, so you can grab those and go out with your friends. Abercrombie's denim fits come in a range of washes. Build your looks around Abercrombie denim. Shop online or in store.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, I'm going to need you to brace yourself one more time. Not because I'm about to share more shocking stats with you. No. You lived through enough already. I'm going to need you to clutch your pearls and to slap on some sunscreen because you're about to see some of the most beautiful islands on Earth. Mariu, located in the southeast Guadalcanal area, the three sister islands in the Makiri-Ulawa province, and several islands across the Tuamotu province, all located across the Solomon Islands. And if you drop your child or the wheel of your car and pick up your phone to open up today's posts on our social media stuffs, you're going to see a view from each of those places in that order. And for my fellow geographically challenged Americans whose breath is taken away, and you're wondering where in the world such divinity exists, don't worry, I've got you. Everyone, imagine Australia. Thank you. Point to the northeast corner, and then move your finger about 3,200 kilometers or 1,200 miles diagonally over the aptly named Coral Sea. In just a few minutes, you'll see what I mean. Anyway, back to your pointing. We've just made it to the Solomon Islands, a country consisting of 6 major islands and, get this, over 900 smaller ones, including the several I just mentioned. Each is home to a massive array of biodiversity not seen anywhere else. And because I can't not fun fact you, here are some fun facts. There are about 4,500 plant species, including 3,200 native species to the islands. The Solomon Islands is an endemic bird area, meaning that of the 223 known bird species, 82% live here exclusively. They don't go anywhere. They just live there. They don't migrate. It has the highest number of endemic birds in the world, and you know what? I wouldn't leave either. Look at it. Look at it. This place also has more mammals than any other Pacific Island region. A whopping 26 of the 47 mammal species here are found nowhere else. And as for marine life, Jesus, I don't even know where to begin. There are so many species of reef fish, for example. The island contains the second highest fish species diversity in the world. Number 2, not bad. They're even home to 6 of the 7 species of known marine turtles. 6 out of 7 are like, yeah, this is it. This is perfect. This place overachieves in beauty and biology. Needless to say, the people of the Solomon Islands want to keep it that way, and biologists of all fields are lining up to help. Not to mention filmmakers. Again, look at this place. Anyway, just a few months ago, in October of 2024, more than 15 scientists and filmmakers assembled with a goal: study the health of the Solomon's ocean environments, especially around the waters of the islands I just mentioned a few moments ago. Folks from National Geographic's Operation Pristine Seas, the government of the Solomon Islands itself, key members of Ocean 12, and the Solomon Islands Ministry of Education and Human Resources Department joined forces to create an A-team of concerned nerds ready to fight and take notes. By the way, George Clooney had nothing to do with the Ocean 12 I'm talking about. It's composed of a different A-team of ministries from the local government, including the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Disaster Management, and Meteorology. It doesn't sound like they're busy at all. There's also the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. No, they're probably always kicking back. So, just like with our time machine, every one of them squeezed their ocean-infatuated asses aboard the Argo, a state-of-the-art research vessel. On it, the team was to assess, quote, the ocean's health with deep-sea cameras, scuba dive surveys, put a pin in that, seabird counts, underwater visual surveys, environmental DNA or eDNA sampling, micropaleo sampling, and more, end quote, from the press release titled, "In the Solomon Islands, scientists, filmmakers, and leaders explore the ocean in hopes of protecting it." My friends, National Geographic brought some of their own toys to play with, too. Operation Pristine Seas brought their brand new submersible called the Argonauta, and it's not fucking around. With it, team members can explore the deep sea and then bring back samples to, you guessed it, their own underwater science lab. What the fuck? This sub can dive up to 1,300 meters or 4,200 feet and quietly scooch close to those reefs and all the other seamounts. It comes equipped with, quote, mud and water samplers, an 8K UHD camera, imaging sonar, adjustable underwater lighting, scaling lasers. Passengers will be able to view underwater life from every angle and in real time, end quote, from the press release. My equally sexy business goose, these islands were going to get a 4,000 pixel probing. And no one was more ready to poke than cinematographer Manu Sanfelix. Just as he and Molly Timmers, the expedition's lead scientists, were packing up gear and getting ready to island hop to a new location, Manu learned of a rumored shipwreck nearby. They were scheduled to leave the next day, but Manu couldn't pass up the opportunity to get some dramatic B-roll and spend some quality time with his son Indigo, who was also on board and hopefully not fucking around on the socials. Anyway, the deal was sweetened further as the wreck wasn't that far off. It could actually be seen from the surface of the water. And I have the dramatic photo to prove it. If you swipe past those angelic photos of the Solomon Islands and past that handy-dandy map of where we are, you'll see an aerial shot of blue water, and down below, it's clear as day. A shadowy mass is just sitting there, give or take 40 feet down. Manu and Indigo were like, let's do it. They decided to suit up and gave this blob a go. Nearly immediately, it was apparent this was no boat. Quote, I went diving in a place where the map said there was a shipwreck, and then I saw something. Seeing the coral was like seeing a cathedral underwater. It's very emotional. I felt this huge respect for something that stayed in one place and survived for hundreds of years, end quote, he told Georgina Rannard of the BBC. My luscious business goose, Manu could not believe his eyes, and you won't either. I do have photos of what is now the world's largest coral colony, but they can't possibly do it justice. At 112 feet by 105 feet, this doozy of a pickle is longer than a blue whale, and it contains hues of blue itself, along with brown, yellow, red, and pink. My friends, each hue is an animal made up of genetically identical coral polyps that work together as if they are one organism. And as to how many polyps populate this megacity of a coral, it's estimated to be about 1 billion, which easily surpasses any megacity populated by people. For comparison, Tokyo is the most populated city in the world with a total of 37 million people. This coral has about 1 billion residents. Wow, it's impressive, and it gets better. One, after some clickety-clack calculations were made, our larger than a blue whale coral reef was also found to be around 300 years old, which is older than the United States as a country. Second, our newly found coral is made up of a species known as Pavona clavis, and it's, quote, looking pretty good health-wise, according to Eric Brown, a coral scientist aboard the research trip. He went on to say to the BBC, while the nearby shallow reefs were degraded due to warmer seas, witnessing this large, healthy coral oasis in slightly deeper waters is a beacon of hope. End quote. Yeah, as ocean temperatures soar, as overfishing, pollution, agricultural runoff, and ocean acidification run amok, this coral, just a few feet deeper than your average coral, has so far dodged a bullet. My friends, we can now add the world's largest coral to the long, lengthy fucking things the Solomon Islands contain, these jewels, which will be protected thanks to some father-son quality time. So please remember to fucking chill with the people you love. Thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, telling your friends about gophers, specifically the gophers who saved a part of Mount St. Helens and like all the little microbes that they were like fucking around in. Yeah, then tell them about the world's largest coral that's not dead. What a day. And a mountainous thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you'll love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.